Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we're going to be doing another One Piece review. Today we're going to be looking at Wano Part 2, Arc 2, whatever it's called. Act 2, I think is the correct terminology here. And I'm not going to bother with the book facts because, well, everyone already knows about One Piece at this point. And the premise here is basically that the team has gathered. Now they have to properly set up their plan. And so a lot of things have to move all over the place in order to enact this, so that when the third act starts, they can definitely go to the battle at Onigashima, right? So we get a lot of setup, we get a lot of development, we get a lot of situations that don't seem like they're going anywhere, but then they just like all collapse into like well-made things, and I really like it. It's very well done. So yeah, let's look at the plot line here. First, we have an interlude. We get to see Gecko Moria shows up to Blackbeard, and they have a situation there where they have a bit of an altercation, and we get to see that there's this situation with the Reverie. And if I remember correctly, no, never mind. This does not happen here. But we're learning about the Reverie issue with it, which then comes up at the end of Wano, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, we start off with Luffy and Kid at Udon, if I remember correctly, which is a big prison where all of the people that are against Orochi are stored, and they're having a bit of a rivalry. They're battling to see who can do more work in this prison. And then they save Hyogoro from an elephant guy, I think, from an elephant smile user. Then we get a transition over to Sanji selling some soba to get some information. And of course, Sanji is hyper capable at cooking, and he also only gives food to women, and it's kind of insane. We get also the introduction to Otoko, who is a very funny character, and I actually really like her a lot. And it really makes me like really sad when things happen to her later on. So yeah, Sanji's doing this, and he gets in trouble, and he starts fighting some Yakuza members that are against Sanji selling soba because they're outselling the other vendors, right? So yeah, eventually we get to meet Hiyori, who is the Oiran, the most attractive courtesan in all of Japan slash Wano, and it's very interesting, very cool. And she's kind of having this trek through the city, and everyone is going crazy over her because, well, she is really hot. And we didn't know, but we do learn that Hiyori is Momo's old sister. She was originally his younger sister, but because of the time travel situation with Otoki, or with Toki, yeah, with Toki, she grew up normally, and Momo is still a little boy, which is pretty interesting. Then we get to learn about Yasu when he is helping Zoro out there at Ibisu, if I remember correctly, which is the place where everyone laughs about everything. And he kind of comes off as like a dumb, random villager, but it eventually ends up that he's a badass. He's a very cool guy. He was a very important member of the high society of Wano. He was a daimyo, if I remember correctly, and he was friendly with Oden, and he was the one that made sure that the Nine Scabbards were actually fit to be Oden's vassals. And it's very good. I really liked him a lot. And he had this sacrifice moment at the end of the arc that was top tier. It was so sad, and I actually really felt for Otoko because Otoko is his daughter. And yeah, man, it actually hit really, really hard. I was listening to Murphy Napier's video earlier today about this part, so I was just really reacting to the way that she reacted to it. She was very emotional during the part where she was talking about this, and it was really like tough, man. Like Otoko, poor girl, man, and her dad was such a badass. It was really, really amazing, actually, really, really well done. Because you initially think he's not very important, and then somehow he's very badass. Now we also get to see that the CP0 Cypher Pole Zero. What was their name? They have like a different code name, right? Is it Aegis? I don't know, but you know, CB0 is with the Shogun, which is interesting because technically speaking, Wano is not supposed to be relevant to the world government. So it's interesting that they are actually interacting with Orochi here. And the thing is that this plotline never actually goes anywhere in part 3, so I don't really care about it too much now. But they're just there and they're just being asshats about it. And, you know, they're basically fomenting, issues in Wano. And then we get to see that Sanji is actually donning his raid suit, and he looks like a very cool black Power Ranger, and he calls himself Soba Mask. So we get a Soga King kind of moment for Sanji, and he, beats up a bunch of asshats that are all over Wano, and they're ruining things. And I think he saves Otoko, or he does something because the guys that ruined his cart basically wasted a bunch of food, and so he was force feeding it to them because they were wasteful. And then he gave Otoko a new bowl, and she was happy to eat it. Then Big Mom shows up, and there's a lot of problems with that because she is a very big, very powerful character, and she's going to ruin things for them, right? So she shows up, and I think she's climbing up the mountain, but then something happens, and all of Big Mom's children end up washed away, and Big Mom ends up at the beach, and she gets amnesia. Eventually, she meets up with Chopper and them, and because she has amnesia, things worked out really well. She also becomes friends with Tama, and that actually becomes a very good plot point later on. But the amnesia part is really kind of not great. It doesn't really work that well, in my opinion. But I think she also battled Kaido at some point during this arc. I can't remember if it's before she had amnesia or afterwards. I think it was afterwards, because her amnesia actually helps her break Luffy out of prison. She ends up there, and they break down the prison. But while that's happening, Robin is at the Shogun's palace. She's there with the Oiran, because Robin is also a courtesan at this point. And she's kind of doing things. She's kind of a spy. She's looking for information. And something happens. The Shogun gets what was it? Did he spill something on himself, or he said something, and Hiyori, shot him down? I can't remember exactly, but something happens, and it makes Toko laugh because she has this laughing sickness from the smile fruits, and Orochi tries to kill her, but Hiyori kind of slaps him, and then she says, "I don't grovel below any man," or something like that, and then Robin helps Toko escape so that they don't kill her, right? Because Orochi wanted to kill her off. At the same time that this is happening, we also get to see Kawamatsu in a cell. Kawamatsu is actually a fishman, and he's also one of the 9 scabbards. I don't know what type of fishman he is. I don't think they ever tell us, but he kind of looks like a kappa, which kind of works really well. Now, are there kappa fishmen, or is he only saying he's a kappa because he's in Wano, and he's actually some sort of frog fishman or balloon fishman or something like that? I don't know. I don't really know what type of fishman he is, but he is a red scabbard, and he's in a cell. They feed him horrible rotted poisoned fish, and he's in a cell while Luffy is battling a bunch of people because Queen, the one of Kaido's second in commands, I think he might be the third in command. I don't know the level. I think it's Kaido, King, Queen, and then Jack. So Queen should be the third in command of Kaido's crew, and he puts Luffy to the test, and Luffy actually uses this to learn how to use Rio, which is advanced armament hockey. It's really interesting because he can learn how to use this, and then from using that advanced armament hockey, he can learn how to use it with Conqueror's hockey, and so he can actually attack without punching anyone, which is irrelevant because eventually we get to see that that's how Roger and Whitebeard fought as well, which is really, really good. I really like that a lot, actually. Zoro is fighting this fox spirit over a bridge because he has a sword that was in the cemetery before, which is the one that he got from Ryuma. And he's battling this thing, and he actually gets injured because as he's battling this thing, Hiyori and Toko show up, and he has to defend them from Killer, who is currently under the employ of Kaido because they took away Kid, and Kid is with Luffy hidden away in the prison, and so he has to battle both of them at the same time. And the Fox Spirit gets a cheap shot on Zoro. Eventually, Hiyori tells the Fox Spirit what's going on, and the battle stops after Zoro manages to beat Killer. And so Hiyori and Zoro and Otoko kind of develop a relationship with each other. Zoro protects Otoko, and Hiyori helps Zoro heal himself. And she also ends up kind of having romantic interest in Zoro in some capacity. I'm not sure. I think it's also because it's kind of like a Boa and Luffy situation where Hiyori is so used to everyone wanting her affections that when one guy kind of blows her off, she's interested in him. So, I don't know. It's really interesting, but I don't really get it too much because it never actually goes anywhere either. And I think that is something that becomes common here in Wano for Oda, or at least it doesn't it doesn't feel satisfying like in other arcs in the One Piece story, right? So yeah, eventually Yasu gets his big moment where he's on a cross and he's being treated badly because he says that he is the Robin Hood character that is stealing from the rich to give to the poor. Turns out that's a lie, but he's doing this because everyone learned about the secret plot to go to Onigashima and get rid of Orochi included, and so they have to change the plan, and they need someone to take the blame for it, and so Yasu takes it upon himself to do so. And he comes up with this fake story, and he says that, the cards that they have been handing out with the symbol are just a joke. It was just him being, a funny guy. And so he has a horrible moment. He becomes a martyr. And I actually really like this moment for Yasu because of what I said earlier, where he just becomes a badass. And it's actually really sad because Otoko basically sees this happen. And Otoko can't help herself from trying to go to her dad to try to help him because she had bought some toad oil from Usopp at some point earlier in the story. And she's trying to heal him. And then it turns out that, he's dead completely. There's no way to revive him. And she and everyone around them starts laughing because of these smile fruits. And they really can't cry, even though they want to. They can't express their sorrow correctly. And it's just horrifying. And Orochi also tries to kill Otoko at some point, and Zoro and Sanji show up to save her. And there's this beautiful moment of Zoro cradling Otoko to him and trying to, comfort her as he's battling these people, because it's just not fair that Otoko has to go through this and that she can't express her sorrow correctly. And I think that Zoro kind of sees that kind of like in a way due to how he felt when Kuena died at their, earlier in the story, like at the beginning of the story in the flashback. Although I'm not really sure. I think it's just because there's a lot of kid characters introduced in Wano, and all of them are supposed to be relevant because this is a situation of like the horrors of the world, but also how they are specifically affecting these young kids. And so the characters are attached to these children, like Tama, Momo, and of course Toko. And it's just a really powerful scene where, Yasui has just been martyred. Toko is trying to save them, and then she's attacked, and Zoro holds her while he protects her. And it's just so good. And it made me really sad. The battle with Zoro and Sanji was great. Big Mom is at Udon, which is what I mentioned earlier. And then she eventually fights Kaido, and I think it's because I don't think she remembers, or she might have. I don't remember what happens, but she fights Kaido for some reason, and there's this awesome spread where they're splitting the sky with their Conqueror's Haki, and it's really, really badass. And then we have the big battle at Udon, where we're preparing to release all the prisoners, but they're actually so downtrodden that they can't actually do anything. Luffy manages to save himself, and then lead the way to try to save them and to kind of get them out of this prison. But Queen tells them, capture him, and they do. And Luffy doesn't understand why they're not fighting for their freedom. And there's this really amazing moment where Luffy has to take all of their damage because they become these like zombies because of something Queen does. And he kind of hugs all of them. He's like, this is not devastation. I am better than you. I am stronger than you. I can hold this out. So why can't you guys do it as well? And he manages to change their mind because he's doing this, and he manages to be Queen and stuff. Momo shows up, and their hope is restored, and it's a really great moment. And then, Luffy finally has allies to battle this because he basically got demolished physically by this disease plague thing, even though he said it didn't affect them. And so, Chopper has to heal him as everyone else is battling for their freedom. And then there's a lot of final preparation and some hockey power-ups. And the important thing here at the end here is also that Enma, one of the swords that was meant for Momo and Hiyori, because Oden had two swords because he's a two-sword style user, and he has two swords. One of them is to go to Hiyori, and the other one is for Momo. And Hiyori trades her sword, Enma, for Ryuma's sword that Zoro has, because Zoro doesn't want to get rid of it because it is his. He has won it. He has been given it by Ryuma, right? So he has to trade it for something equally as valuable, and Hiyori is the only one that has it. And so she gives him her sword, Enma, in exchange for the sword of Ryuma. And there's this moment where Zoro draws the sword, and then it like tries to eat him. And it's insane. It's so cool. It uses its own haki. Apparently, this sword has managed to become a cursed blade. It is a blade similar to the one that Mihawk has. And it's trying to eat Zoro, but Zoro manages to kind of beat it into submission to an extent. And so he gets his arm back, and it's really, really interesting. And, there's the big haki power-up for Luffy, and it's really good. I love this part of the story. Generally, it was very enjoyable. However, I feel like this is also partly the last part of Wano that I really, truly enjoyed, because, technically I did enjoy part 3 as well, but I feel like part 3 is equally too dense and also not able to give us everything that we needed, all of the resolutions and all of the important bits that we needed in a satisfying way, especially because of the abrupt ending at the end of Wano, because at this point I am caught up with One Piece. This is, I read this part of Wano 3 weeks ago at this point, and this will probably come out 2 weeks after I record this, if I remember correctly. And so I know what happens at the end of Wano, and I feel like this is the last part of Wano that feels like peak, like proper Oda, and the next part of Wano feels like there was not enough time and that Oda had to rush certain parts, but because he wanted to make this the big massive arc, he had to rush when he shouldn't have, when he had set up a pace originally, and it's a really weird situation. But overall, the plotline for this part of Wano was really good. I really enjoyed it, and I'm very happy that I read this part. So the characters here are Ashura Doji, Kawamatsu, Fox, Kinemon, sorry, not Fox, not Kinemon Firefox, but the Fox thing that turns into some sort of Buddha, troll under the bridge type character. Hyogoro, which is a great character. I really like him. It's actually kind of the first time that we get Luffy trained by an old man, that we actually get to see, right? Because technically Rayleigh trained Luffy for 2 years, right? But this is the first time we actually get to see an old timer take Luffy under his wing, and I really liked it. I thought it was really, really good. Law and Hawkins have a bit of a standoff, and I think that Law actually gets put in a cage at some point. I really enjoyed Kid, and I think he becomes one of my favorite characters at the end of Wano, because I really like his style and what he is and how he stands up for himself. And he's basically Luffy without being the main character, basically. And I think it works. It's pretty good. There's also Luffy himself, of course, and Killer. And I really enjoy the dynamic between Killer and Kid because they are really like bros, right? They are not just subordinate and captain, but actually like brothers, right? Which is really, really good. Yazu, Otoku, Hiyori, all of the Japanese Wano characters that were introduced were really good as well. We also get to meet Queen, which I don't really like. I mean, I don't dislike them either, but like, I don't know. Out of all of the big bad guys, I really like Jack and King a lot more than Queen. So yeah, in terms of world building, we get to learn about the Smile Fruits and why Ibisu Village is known as the Laughing Village or whatever it's called. Which is really fucked up. Like the story for the Smile Fruits is insane. It's like actually messed up as fuck. It's kind of crazy. We get to learn a lot about the history of Wano and the geography of Wano. We get to see that it's basically just real life Japan, but instead of being organized like a banana kind of looking thing, they're organized into a circle. And it's really good. I really like that. I thought it was really well done. We get to learn more about Haki, which is the introduction of the Ryo, the advanced armament Haki. We get to learn about Enma, which is a sword that has its own Haki, after, I'm guessing, it was imbued with Haki by someone else, probably Odin, although I'm not sure. It might have been something that was passed down to Odin. And then we get to see that Zoro has Haki, and I think we get to see the reveal of Emperor's Haki for Zoro at this point. But technically, this is the first time that Zoro actively flexes his Haki abilities. And possibly Zoro is also from Wano. But I think that at this point, like, you know, IRL, at this point, it is not the case. I'm not too sure, though, because, I mean, Zoro and Ryuma are basically the same character. You know, there's other characters in Wano that look like Zoro as well, so I don't know. And we get to see a lot of crazy Zoan type shit in this one. I don't remember what it was, though, exactly. I can't remember which Zoans we saw in this part of the story. I mean, I guess Kaido is a Zoan. Oh, yeah, well, technically, all of Kaido's beast pirates, all of the ones that are important and that actually have a devil fruit, are all Zoans. And they're all kind of badass, like, mythical zones, or like ancient zones, and I think that's really, really cool. In terms of the artwork, I mean, what else is there to say? It's really great. It's really amazing. I love it. Fan service-wise, there's a few bath scenes, I think, and there might be even one part where Hiyori is undressed. I don't remember exactly. But Hiyori, Nami, and Robin definitely are fan service-y characters in this part of the arc. And the rating for this is a 4 out of 5. I'm really enjoying it. I really liked it. And I think it was a lot of setup. It wasn't exactly amazing, but for me, I feel like this is the last part of Wano that feels like Oda had the time to do everything he wanted in the way he wanted. And Wano Part 3 doesn't feel like that anymore. So it is what it is. I really liked it. I thought it was good. And I'm really excited to get to reviewing Wano so I can do all of the other One Piece all of the other One Piece videos that I want to do. Because at this point, I have like 6 or 7 video ideas that I want to get around to doing. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. And, you know, leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. And see you guys later.